Wow, happy New Year's Eve. It's hard to imagine that as we head into 2025 that our family will be celebrating our 10th year of minimalism. So 10 years as living as minimalists. We got rid of 85% of our stuff over the last 9 years. The bulk of it happened in the first year, and then we've gotten to enjoy the benefits year after year after year, and I've sometimes described minimalism as the gift that keeps on giving. We did the hard work. I did a lot of the hard work 9 years ago, and now I've gotten to enjoy the benefits. Our family has gotten to enjoy the benefits year after year, and I've said before, I would do the work all over again. If it was like, "Oh, you hit the 10-year mark, like, you have to do it all over again to enjoy another 10 years," I would do it in a heartbeat because the benefits have been so good, and as we head into a new year and we face down, are we gonna have New Year's resolutions? Are we gonna set goals? What is this year gonna look like? If you have at all been thinking about really going after minimalism, really working to highly simplify and declutter your house, I would say 1000%. I think that is such an awesome goal because the domino effect of benefits that you're going to experience. So today I want to share six really big mindset shifts, six ways I look at stuff, physical items, completely differently now. So differently. In the past, I've shared before, I grew up on a farm in Minnesota, and it was the greatest childhood you could ask for. And also, we didn't have a lot of extra. And so, in a way, you can get a little bit, and if you've experienced this too, of any kind of lack or feeling like you didn't always have all the things you had hoped you would have, sometimes it can kind of distort our relationship with stuff a little bit. I mean, we can definitely idolize it. We can think, "Oh, if only I had that." But as we've gone the opposite direction now and just stripped away all the stuff that we're not using, that isn't adding value to our life, I feel like I have a much different perspective now on physical items and stuff. And this, number one, this quote, I couldn't find the exact quote. It's inspired by the book Essentialism, but it says, "We don't buy things, we hire them to do a job." So we don't buy things, we hire them to do a job. And I've tried to articulate this over or the past several years that, physical possessions, they're meant to add value to our life. They're meant to make our life better and to help us, to serve us. And when they stop doing that, I have a little scale I'll show coming up, a little meter, then they're not performing the job. But why I love this mindset shift is my hope is that it helps us to release these things that are not performing their job well. Similar to how an employee that's not performing and always shows up late and just does a crap job, similarly to how they get let go from their position, that it's not personal. It's just us saying like, "Oh, I hired that cleaning product to do a job. It didn't do it. I hired these toys to keep my kids occupied and to encourage imaginative play. It's not doing it. I hired this dress to wear to a special occasion, but now I didn't end up wearing it or it never fit or I shouldn't have bought it and it's not doing that job. That's okay. I'm just going to let it go because as we head into a new year, my goodness, I don't want to drag all this stuff with me that I hired to do a job that it's not actually doing. So again, it's nothing personal. We can just be like, "Oh yeah, hired it to a job, not doing it." It's just like one of those employees you hire. You think you're making a good hire, right? I mean, you look at the hiring process. Many, employers, they're very thorough with it, but you don't actually know until you get the person into the job, doing the position, if they're going to work out or not. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. So, permission in this new year to look at all of our physical things as things we have hired to do a job. And if it is not doing the job or if the job description has changed, that's totally okay. And permission to let it go. Number two, this is a big one. Today is a special occasion. Today is a special occasion. Now, not just because it's New Year's Eve, right? That's kind of a special occasion in of itself. Probably depending on what life season you're in. Used to be a more special occasion than right now. I can't remember the last time we stayed up till midnight on New Year's, but anyways, every single day is a special occasion, and I think this becomes more clear maybe the older that we get. I don't know. I could be mistaken that my goodness, we woke up today, we get today. Today is a special occasion. So, use the special things, wear the special things. Let's not save anything for a special occasion. Let's use it and enjoy it. And this is definitely something that we have embraced over the last 9 years, and I have no regrets. I've often shared about my grandma's red tablecloth that we have, we use it for special occasions, and, a few Christmases ago, Adeline was doing crafts at the table on grandma's special red tablecloth, and she got super glue on it. And I don't there might be some hacks or tricks out there to get super glue out of tablecloths. I was never able to find one. So there is permanently super glue on the red tablecloth. And at first I was like, "Oh shoot, that's a bummer. I should have had her do it at the counter or not." But then I realized that she added a memory to the tablecloth. That was a very Adeline thing to do. She loves doing crafts and creating and all of that. And also, I realized too that the tablecloth came from my grandma Adeline, and Adeline is named after her. They never got to meet in person, but Adeline got to add her own, her own piece of herself to the tablecloth as well. And it's a memory that we have now with it. So I can't think back to a single thing where I've thought, you know what, I'm just going to use it. I'm going to enjoy the thing. Today is a special occasion, and when I've ever regretted it. If anything, even as stuff has gotten used up or is, maybe a little tarnished then, I feel glad that it's getting used. This physical stuff, again, it's hired to do a job. It's meant to do something. That red tablecloth, the job now is to remind me of my grandma, and I love it. But not all sentimental stuff is doing its job either, right? So again, using this lens, we're hiring it to a job, and also today is a special occasion. So let's not let stuff waste away in storage. Number 3, this one's sobering too. Again, wisdom that probably comes with age. We don't have time to finish all the projects and do all the hobbies. You know, we hang on to so much of this stuff, and it's like we just drag it from year to year to year, right? Here we are at the beginning of another new year. Are we gonna drag all of these unfinished projects and all of these fantasy self someday hobby items into another year? Or could we look at the data and say, "Oh, actually, maybe you're right, Dawn. Maybe there just actually is not enough hours in the day or week or year to do all the things that we thought we were gonna do." We really have to like reset our mind around how much free time we actually have. And again, if we're looking at data, um, we all have really good data to work with because we all went through a pandemic together. And if we didn't have time then to finish the projects and to do the hobbies, when can we imagine that we're actually going to have more time? And there's so much freedom in recognizing that we don't have time, just recognizing the limitations. Our days and our weeks are kind of like a container, right? We talk about the container concept, and recognizing that there likely isn't a time when I am going to have the hours that I need to use this stuff, and realizing the weight that we're carrying by looking at these things day in and day out that we've spent money on that we haven't finished. It's just constantly sending us negative messages about what we're not doing, what we're failing at, whether it's jeans that we wanted to mend, cross stitch projects, quilting, or hobby things like camping and fitness things. And so, if we would be willing to let those go, share them with others that might be able to make use of them, you will be so amazed at the mental bandwidth that you free up, and how much more positive your home environment feels. Number 4, extra forks don't add extra value. So it's really interesting. We sometimes talk about the hierarchy of needs, and it's the pyramid, and at the base is like our base needs for food, shelter, air, water, like those real base needs that we have, clothing, right? And then next up from there, we get into more like of the like safety, security, and then we move up to love. But what's fascinating is that the only place you're going to find physical items are in our base needs. Like, yes, we need like some place to live, right? Some kind of shelter. We need some clothing. But what you'll find is that once a need is met, trying to go above and beyond with extra stuff to meet the need actually adds no extra value. So, like, extra forks don't add extra value because if you have enough forks to eat with every day, having extra forks does not add extra value. And we sometimes think like, "Oh, but what if I entertain? What if a bunch of people come over? What if I lose my fork?" It doesn't actually really work that way. We're better off having just what we need for here and today, and then crossing that bridge when we get there. Oh no, I'm going to host a party of 50 people. What am I going to do? Well, I could borrow forks from other people. I could go to the thrift store and I could buy some just for this occasion. We could use plastic silverware. And so trying to always be anticipating what are we going to need in the future? When might I need extra? When might this wear out or I lose it or it breaks down and then I'm going to need an extra? It is exhausting and it's anxiety inducing. None of us can predict the future. We can look at past data. Now, if you host 50 people every other month, then yeah, you do want to have extra forks on hand, right? That makes logical sense. But all these other occasions where we're trying to predict the future, it actually creates anxiety. So we're better off living with just what we need here and today. And again, that's what we've been doing for the last 9 years. And over the past 9 years, I can't think of a time where I was like, "Oh, but I got rid of that stuff and we could have used it," and then I beat myself up. No, once in a while, they're like, "Oh, I need an extra crock pot." Okay, I'll call my mom or I'll call my neighbor, right? Oh, I could use this right now. We don't have to have everything for ourselves. We can look at our collective community around us and draw on that. And it is a beautiful thing. It forces us to interact with others and it makes them feel useful too. And they like to share what they have. It has been so cool. So, extra forks don't add extra value. And this is where I wanted to show that little like meter too, where 1 fork or, 1 to 2 forks, I think we have, like, 2 forks for each person in our household. That is valuable. That is useful. When I look at forks in our home, I don't feel burdened by them or overwhelmed. I'm not like, "Oh, I have to sort forks this weekend," right? Use my time off for managing all of my extra inventory. No, it's valuable. It's useful. If I didn't have a fork, that would not be enjoyable, right? Like, having that does add value. However, we get to that point where we have too many, and now I'm having to use my free time to manage them, and it starts to become a burden. And then from there, it becomes clutter. So things are not bad, right? They're very useful. Many things like help our day go much better. However, when we have too many of them, that's when they become a burden and they become clutter. And so getting rid of duplicates and extras is such a great place to be focusing here in the new year as we're decluttering. Number 5. I would be curious your thoughts on this one as well. Stocking up seldom works. I mean, there's a lot of the stocking up I've tried to do in the past was around kid stuff. So definitely, Walmart after back to school stuff goes on special and all the school supplies are clearance and I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to stock up on school supplies now." And I get them, they stay in the Walmart bag, they end up somewhere where I forget about them and I don't come across them again until like the following year after we've already bought school supplies again and I'm like, "Oh, right, we had bought all this stuff," right? And so I would be curious if this has worked for you. So often what happens is when we try to stock up on things, it expires before we get a chance to use it. It somehow gets ruined in storage, whether it's water or pests or something else gets to it. We forget about it. Again, this is all inventory that we have to manage. And so there might be a couple like strategic areas you stock up, food, water. Many have just come through hurricanes and all of that. You have a much I mean, you have good data to work out with now, what you actually want to stock up on and what added no value to you during that time. But it's a pretty small, narrow niche of stuff that it actually works to stock up on. Any other time when it's like, "Oh, things are on clearance or they're on sale or at a garage sale," I remember trying to, buy kids' clothes ahead because I'm like, "Oh, well, Gap jeans for 50 cents, I can't really pass that up. They're 3 sizes too big, but I'll keep them until they're big enough." And how often I forgot about it, and then by the time the kids could actually use or, like, they had already outgrown it then by the time I, like, remembered and came across it again, and so stocking up seldom works, and I know this one can be a little confusing because sometimes we think like stocking up, again, bulk shopping, taking advantage of sales, filling our freezer with things. We think it's being a good steward. We think it's being wise with our finances. But again, if you would look back at the data, this is a personal decision for each of us. I would really challenge you, like, did you actually come out ahead? And again, maybe there's some few specific areas where you're like, yes, here and here I do. I'm just going to focus all my energy on that, but the other stuff I'm not going to try to. But just really look at past data and see, like, did that actually work out in my favor? Or was it kind of a fool's errand? And I thought it was going to, save us all this time and money, but it didn't actually end up doing that. And number 6, where there did I type this wrong? Oh, no, okay, here we go. There's always risk where there is potential reward. So, like I said, we're heading into 10 years now of living as a minimalist. And when I say living as a minimalist, it really means just having the stuff that we use day in and day out, not storing stuff for the future or someday or what if. I've gotten really diligent. Like, if we're not using it, if I hired it to do a job and it is not doing that job, then I am going to risk letting it go. Even just recently, like, I Diana was like, now Diana wants to bake bread, and I'm like, yep, been there, done that, right? Um, and so I had our bread maker still, and she was like, "Oh, like, I'm thinking about getting a bread maker." I'm like, "Here, take it." Now, is there a chance we could get back into bread making or whatever? Yeah. But I would rather pass that on, let somebody else use it, risk that I could need it in the future and not have it, than miss out on the reward of living in a highly, highly, highly simplified home. When we started minimalism, our kids were really little. We had 4 kids, ages 4 and under. So no wonder I was like desperate for something. And I found minimalism, and I never looked back. I got so infatuated with it, and I was like, I don't know if this is the solution I'm looking for, but I was drowning in stuff. I was not happy as a stay-at-home mom. And so I'm like, we're just gonna try it. And so we went all in, and I thought when our kids were little that, like, I really needed it to survive, and I did, and it was awesome, and it made motherhood so much more enjoyable. I feel like our kids got to grow up in a more peaceful home. They've benefited from it. I know, often I'll see comments, like, on my toy videos and stuff, like, "Just let kids have toys," you know? And if I honestly thought that was the best thing for them, they would have all the toys in the world, right? But what I've learned is that they thrive in these highly simplified environments, and that's totally been what we've experienced. And they've benefited from it. They don't grumble about it. They're not bitter about it by any means, right? We just got through another Christmas, and it was like so balanced and good. Um and so the benefits have been so great, and especially when our kids were little. And I thought that would be the most pivotal time. That's a very busy, kind of chaotic time of life, right? No way. I feel like we benefit from it even more as our kids are getting older. So now they're 10 through 15. And like, now, even though we keep our calendar in check, right? Like, I'm pretty minimalist with our schedule too, but there's just so much going on, and it's fun, and we're just driving places and going, and we need a gift for this birthday party, and gotta bring snacks to this and everything. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've only gone further with simplifying as our kids are getting older, realizing that, like, this season is even busier, and it's just a different kind of busy, right? But it's more demanding. Maybe that's the better word for it. It's definitely more demanding than when they were little, and it's good. Like, my sister Diana, she has 4 kids, 1 through 6 right now, and she's like, "But tell me it gets better," right? I'm like, "Oh my goodness. No, it gets, like, better and better and better every year, like, in such a fun, cool way, but also very busy and demanding too." And so I feel like we all benefit even more now from a highly simplified home. Like, when we're home, and we can let our guard down, and we can rest and relax and recharge and reset and, talk to each other and navigate new seasons and, breakdowns in relationship and all the different things, right? And we have the energy to do that, and the bandwidth and the wherewithal. And I'm like, I'm hardly ever the mom that is like forgetting about snacks or drop off times or this or that. Like, I just actually really feel on top of it. And that is not my natural wiring, right? I'm like still very much a naturally messy person. I like to say creative, right? Like, but it feels really good to be able to feel like, yeah, but we're on top of it. Like there's a lot going on right now, but we're on top of it and it's not throwing our whole family out of whack. And we can, when we do have downtime and time together, uh, having that time in a very highly simplified house, it just makes it so much easier and so much more enjoyable. And I feel like it's easier for us to connect and to appreciate our relationships and what we do have. And so yeah, I would love to the reason I wanted to go live today and share this is because I love getting to also answer your questions. And so I would love to answer questions, especially specific to minimalism right now. And so again, if it is something that you have been thinking about, or maybe even going further in the new year, I cannot encourage you enough because there's just so much stress and anxiety floating around right now. And I feel like minimalism is it's not necessarily like the solution, but it's a big piece of the puzzle for us feeling like we're back on top again. And I just realized actually too, I was gonna make one more slide. As we head into another new year too, I getting our house in order, it's in highly simplified, it changed everything with how our household ran. But what it also led to that I would never have imagined, because I've said before, I started minimalism as a housekeeping tactic, just like how can I stay on top of my house and not feel like such a loser as a mom, always having my house be so messy. And so minimalism, like, yes, I can stay on top of our house, not a big deal. If you're like, hey, I'm 5 minutes away, we're stopping over, I'll be like, no big deal. We might have to do it quick. Like, it might be like, hey, everybody pick up real quick, right? But we could totally have our house in order. Um, and so that in and of itself has been the hugest gift. It also then made it easier to get out of debt and to have healthier habits, to eat at home more, cook at home more. So it also like had this domino effect into other things. What I did not anticipate though was that as I decluttered, my confidence in myself increased. And it also encouraged me then to want to get back out and to help others more. And I shared last year the World Happiness Report. Um, Basically, like the most surefire way for any of us to increase our happiness is to help others. And so I felt like as I got my home decluttered, that was taking less bandwidth, but it also caused me to increase my confidence in myself because I've learned now that often the barrier to us getting out and helping others, it's not time or anything like that. It's actually us believing that we can make a difference in the lives of others. And so if we're looking at also achieving more happiness in the new year, I do believe that it involves helping others, but we have to have confidence in ourselves that we have something to offer. And it's interesting to me that for me, that came through getting my house decluttered, through achieving something, like completing something that I set out to do, but also, then the confidence, like me being able to stay on top of my house, when in the past that was such a point of failure for me that I could stay up on the dishes and the laundry, all the cleaning systems, my to-do list, managing things with the kids well, managing our schedule well, our budget, all of that. I that bolstered my confidence so much. So then to say like, "Oh, hey, why don't you start a YouTube channel?" Or, "We've gone on missions trips now," or to believe that I actually have something to offer the world besides, being a mom, like that is very important work that we're doing, obviously. But even beyond that, that I would have something to offer and to give to others, that came through getting our house decluttered and simplified. And so I really want that for you too, because getting our house simplified is huge. It is a step like in the right direction, but I think ultimately, and as I've visited with other women and just like really researched this a lot, I don't think that we are gonna get to the level of happiness that we want either unless we're intersecting our lives with others. So that's kind of an aside, but that has been huge for me and just I guess feeling, like we're all searching for some kind of purpose or meaning. And so being able to also find that, I feel like minimalism led to that too. Okay, questions. If you put a question mark in front of it, it's easiest for me to grab it. If you posted a question and I didn't see it, feel free to post it again. How is your faith tied to your minimalism? Do you feel that your faith that God will provide makes it easier to keep things streamlined? Well, so that's what's so cool, Katie. Every faith belief, I believe, lines up with this. We're not supposed to idolize our stuff. Um, there is like pretty much every faith belief is that we are not meant to be our own source or supply, right? That we reap and we sow, and that anytime we hold anything too tightly, and I think this kind of ties into the stocking up too, um, that it's futile, that it does not work out. Like that is those are not the laws that the world is governed by. So yes, I 1000% I think the Christian faith lines up with this, but I actually believe I've learned about other faiths and practices as well. They all come back to this. Like stuff, we know this, right? Stuff is not the answer. And having fear or scarcity mindset only seems to breed more fear and more scarcity. That's a good question. Doom boxes, purses, bags, help. I don't mind getting rid of things, but it's all the hidden things inside which are often important or contain personal info that I just don't know what to do with. Well, Randy, this is a great question because what I would say is all that stuff has been time tested. So we've all done that thing where you get a new purse and the old purse has all the old junk in it. Did you go back and reach for any of it? No. Like, Cass will say, like, the 10-second rule, look in it, make a quick pass through, pull out anything valuable. If it has personal information, shred it or burn it or whatever you have to do. But I would say that that has been time tested, and so it is not worth spending a lot of time on it. I have followed you for years and love a decluttered home, but I keep bringing things in. Yeah, so this is where I think, again, we're all searching for meaning. I was listening to a podcast and the gal was talking about, she's like, I've worked with billionaires and I have worked with drug addicts on the street, right? She's like, and everyone in between, we are all searching for meaning. And so if we are still turning to, doom scrolling, buying things, I would challenge you to like look a little wider and be like, who can I help? Who can I intersect my life with? That is going to give us a similar reward, like that dopamine hit we're looking for that we get from shopping, but finding other ways to achieve that. I think the most obvious way is through helping others, but there's other ways, learning new things, learning new skills. Try not to find ones that are like super cluttery, taking a class, a cooking class, something else. So where else can you invest some energy where you're going to get a similar reward that shopping is giving you right now? Since you interact with working moms, would love to see specific minimal tips for routines and housekeeping for working moms. Yeah, I mean, so I have this whole journey now. I mean, at least 8 of the last 9 years I have worked full time along with this. And that's where, like, I feel like as we simplify our house, all of these things fall into order, the cleaning routines, the meal planning. And so we're actually like, I'm not turning this into a commercial for our membership group, but inside of our membership group that we are adding in household management systems, meal planning, cleaning, laundry, task management, stress management, because it goes hand in hand. So if those systems, as a working mom, if those systems are not humming along in your home, if they're not, if you can't put them on autopilot, it means there's still too much inventory cluttering them up, clogging them up. So because we can be, even as working moms, successful with all of these systems, we just have to have really, really, really low inventory in our homes. And it's counterintuitive, right? Kind of like the forks. We're like, no, I need more because I can't do laundry as often or dishes or whatever. It actually comes down to even less inventory in your systems. How do I get over this? I have stress of being the mom that is not prepared for my family's needs by not having whatever they need at any given moment by having enough stuff around. Well, I mean, I guess I don't quite know where you picked up that mindset that as the mom, I should always have everything on hand for everyone. So if that's true to you and that's who you want to be, then you have to keep everything on hand. I don't put that pressure on myself. Oh, goodness. That is, like, so much inventory that you have to manage, and again, like, Dr. John Deloney has said this, trying to predict the future creates anxiety. Like, how much anxiety are you living with trying to anticipate all of these imaginary needs and not knowing for sure? Now, I can be the resourceful mom. God, what did we just have to just recently what were we at Goodwill looking for? The kids needed something for some Christmas something or other, right? And so we didn't have it on hand, but I know where to source it. I'm like, all right, let's go to the thrift store. Let's do this. Let's look on Amazon. So I wonder if you can begin to take that pressure off of yourself. And it just first comes by recognizing that it's there and maybe it's not actually serving you. I'm not saying it's simple to unravel all of that, but um, I would give you permission to begin to let that go. Mom of an autistic daughter who has hoarder tendencies. Any helpful thoughts on how to help her navigate her relationship to her collections? Yeah. So I don't want to overstep here because I know a lot about neurodiversity now with just working with the women in our community. I don't know everything about it, but treasure bins, containers are so powerful. Even our autistic children um know and can know and respect boundaries, and a big one is that things do not get stored on the floor. Like, the floor is not storage, and this is for all of our kiddos, right? Like, Gage, I have a collector. It's not the same necessarily, but it had to be like stuff on the floor. That means you've lost value for it. Like, things on the floor. That's just carelessness. I don't care about things that are just laying around on the floor. So we have to have a home for things, and then we practice with these like treasure bins or limits. You can keep anything that fits in here, but then when we can't fit the lid on, we have to go through, and usually stuff at the bottom is less special now. This is a gift that you can give her to work on practicing it. And in the beginning, and you're like, "Hey, the lid doesn't fit on. We got to get rid of some stuff." They might choose one thing to let go of, and we celebrate that, and it's great, and we make it a positive experience, and we move on. And then a couple days later, we come back, and we're like, "Okay, you know what? Still not fitting. What else can we look for in here?" And we just keep practicing it. But as long as it's a safe and a positive experience for them, we don't have to worry that we're traumatizing them. It's just probably going to take more practice with your daughter than it might otherwise, but I do think it is a very worthwhile process, and I think she will begin to get it, and it's gonna be a really cool tool for her to be able to have. Oh, excuse me. We have had this, like, cold that just will not end, and it is just like, we're doing, like, all the things too, right? I mean, oh, it's just what do you do? I have OCD, ADHD, and I'm so overwhelmed that I was wondering how to deal with clothes. What steps do I take? So I would recommend Project 333 by Courtney Carver because especially those OCD, ADD, ADHD, and our children with these things, ODD, they thrive with highly simplified, environments, and I believe you will too. And so Courtney from Project 333, it's a very safe method. You pick out 33 items and you just box up the rest. We're not asking you to donate it at this point. We're gonna set it aside. We're gonna test out this limited wardrobe. If you need to pull something back out, you can. And then at the end of 3 months, you revisit it, you look at your tote where you pack stuff away again, and so it's a very safe process, but it really causes you to go a lot further than you might otherwise. I kinda talked about the stop buying stuff. We have to find something else to replace that habit with. Like, we're getting a high from it, right? So, I mean, this is not easy work. I don't wanna oversimplify this at all, but how else can I start to get, a positive reward from something else? How much time do you dedicate to housework daily? 15 minutes? I don't know. Now, our kids are involved with the process, right? Like, I mean, everybody has their areas they pick up. So they probably each spend 15 minutes too. Some are in charge of dishes, some are in charge of laundry, other picking up and whatnot. But when you're doing a load of laundry a day and processing that load right when it comes out, I mean, that's not even 15 minutes. And so, because we have such low inventory, it's very easy to involve the kids to help. I know most of us as parents want to do that. It's not overwhelming. I don't feel guilty at all. And I spend so little time cleaning and managing our house now. But again, because of the low inventory, and that's where we're talking about risk and rewards, I was willing to take the risk of getting rid of like all of our stuff that we weren't using, and the rewards, this is one of the rewards, very, very little time, to manage our house. Yeah, how do you deal with a partner who overconsumes and brings in too many things? Repetitive conversations. This is tricky, right? Because they're also getting a high from buying and bringing stuff in. That's hard. Like, I mean, whether it's we become addicted to games on our phones or social media or buying or drinking or smoking or all of it, we're getting a reward from it and it's working. it makes us feel better. So then to try and change that, it's big, it's hard. Like, I don't wanna oversimplify it, but it is worth having conversations and talking about how it makes you feel and what you've been trying to achieve with simplifying your home and then what it feels like when it gets cluttered up again. And it's not like a one and done conversation, unfortunately. It's revisiting it multiple times, but I'm sorry because it's a lot and it's frustrating too when you've been working hard and getting areas decluttered only to have them cluttered back up again. That's incredibly frustrating. And so I am sorry about that. Yeah, how do I deal with a spouse that literally pulls stuff out of the toss bag and hides? I found a stash of about 50 fast food cups. Yeah, again, our relationships with stuff are sometimes complicated. And so, it might be that if you're packing up donations, they have to leave the house right away. It has to go straight to the car. It has to go straight to the donation center, which is a bummer, right? Like that just creates more work for you. But um, again, and then conversations and talk I mean, it's hard. They have to be in a position to wanna change, but otherwise, if it's your stuff and you want it out, I would say it just has to leave the house right away then, which, I mean, it feels good too, but it's an extra layer of work too. Thank you for taking the time to help us all. It is my joy, honestly. How do I help my small school-aged kid to declutter toys they no longer play with but don't want to let go? So this is where time will tell bins are super helpful. So in the book Simplicity Parenting, I highly recommend every parent reads this book. It's kind of thick and meaty, but you can skip around to just the chapters that apply to you right now. But he says to cut your toys in half. So this is a great time of year to do it. Grab some empty Amazon boxes, totes, and just tell your kids, hey, we're not getting rid of anything. We are just cutting them in half. So that means for every two toys, one has to go in a box. And we're going to look for the obvious ones that they've outgrown, are broken, they've clearly lost interest in. And then we're just telling them, we're just setting them aside and let them experience it. Fewer toys, they're not going to miss them. You can tell them, you can ask for something by name if you want it back out, let them experience that, and then in 2 weeks, cut them in half again, and keep doing that till you get down to a point that's very manageable. But this is a really safe way for your kids to get to experience what it feels like to have less, because, when we tell kids like, "Oh, we're gonna declutter your toys," it's kind of an abstract concept. They don't know the benefits of having few toys. So them being able to experience it and that you're not decluttering them or getting rid of them without them knowing it, it creates safety in that situation. Tips on documenting success to keep up motivation. Oh, before and after pictures are so important. I know we don't always like to take the before pictures because we've all failed at our goals, right? You're like, "Oh, I'm gonna take the before picture, and I'm never gonna get to declutter it. I have these before pictures." Please take the before pictures. They're so motivating. Our brain adjusts very quickly to the progress that we make. And so we'll get a space decluttered. And then a couple days later, we're like, have I even done anything? Right? You need the before pictures to look back at. How do you cope with children saying they are bored because there's not enough toys? Okay, so this we have to reset in their brains, right? Toys don't solve boredom. If they did, I would buy my children every single toy out there. Toys don't. Children's imaginations solve boredom. You know this, you've experienced this. It's when they get into creative play. So, our job as parents is to set up an environment that is conducive with creative play. So, that's why I love to have cardboard and we have like our inventors boxes with just random stuff we throw in it. Lots of masking tape, markers, scissors, it's when they're creating. And Diana was just talking about like Adley and Declan set up a post office and mailboxes, and they were creating mail for each other. Then they made a library with their books. She has highly, highly simplified their toys more recently. And she's like, oh my gosh, Dawn, you're right. Like they're playing so much on their own. And she's like, the things they're coming up with. And I'm like, I know. So it is not toys. So we sometimes have to re educate our kids because marketing has done a fantastic job of training them and us to believe that we need toys to keep them occupied, but it's not toys, it is a creative environment. Best places to start minimizing. Where did you start? How long does it take to get to peace? Uh, Uncluttered life in home. So I just did a video, 3 places to start decluttering, and I recommend kitchen, kids' toys, and clothing because those make the biggest impact. And I, obviously have videos on all of those, but kitchen is my number one place to start for anyone because it causes us to cook more. It's easier to keep clean. I feel like we can make our money back in the kitchen by food not going bad, not eating out. And for us, it took about a year to get our house simplified. That was me doing it by myself, working during nap times. Like I said, we had 4 kids, ages 4 and under, and I was working part-time. And so I powered like on nap times, 15-minute chunks. I was just like, all right, this drawer, go, this closet, go. So, but it took about a year. Part of that though was me building confidence. I would declutter and be like, okay, I don't miss any of that stuff. I could go, I could do a little more. I could do a little more. So, there is I don't think you could declutter your full house in a weekend, right? Just because you build confidence in yourself as you go that you're making good decisions and don't miss the stuff. I'm struggling with getting my house decluttered. My husband grew up very poor and in a cluttered home. When he finds free stuff, he brings it home. Yeah, clutter doesn't bother him. Yeah, no. And so, generally, what we recommend then is that you have to come to some common ground. Like, could we agree that I would like to have the kitchen and our main living space simplified? If you want to keep extra stuff in this part of the garage or the basement or this room that's your catch-all room, then you may. But for me, I'm learning that clutter is stressful because you have to, like Carol, you have to have some areas you're getting a win in. Otherwise, it is very hard to keep the momentum going. You might also find bringing some community around what you're doing. We have our membership group. We have body doubling twice a day where we work together. It is phenomenal. Like, it is so powerful. So sometimes we need to invest in something and just bring a little community around it. We have our next all day declutter for Take Your House Back coming up on January 18th. So if you're more like, I need a few dates throughout the year on the calendar where I'm going to make big progress, I would highly recommend Take Your House Back. If you want more like ongoing, daily, weekly, regular support, then our membership group could be a great fit too. Yeah. West Coast is with Dinah. I would love that. Yes, please sign me up. Where do I sign up for that? Oh, any advice for caretakers? I have 4 kids. One is 14, G-tube fed and in diapers. He does walk. He's like a toddler in a 14-year-old body. It's more work than a newborn. He requires constant attention. I am so sorry. That is just so much. And it just, you know, um, I only know from, like, some friends and various things of, this type of situation. You're not always good at asking for help, right? So, because it's hard, like, their needs and everything. So, if there's any way for all caregivers, whether it's aging parents or children or whatnot, um, how can you bring more support around you? And I know it's hard and it's people flake out and people say they're going to help and then they don't and they don't know all the ins and outs. And even when you get a break, like, it's still all right here, like, you're still thinking about it and everything. So that would be number 1. Number 2, keep simplifying. Like, you have so little extra bandwidth to dedicate to managing stuff. So you especially get permission to do, like, risky behavior and let it all go. I know, like, often that in these same situations, you don't have extra means to just be replacing stuff, but you don't end up replacing it. Like, the things you use all the time and what you don't actually have time for and you're never gonna get to. So permission to let all of that stuff go, simplify as much as you possibly can. I know you also don't have time to simplify, right? And so it's just such a, like, chicken and egg, position that you end up in. And so I really am sorry about that, and, if there's any way that you can bring extra support around you, though, please do. I know it's hard and not easy, but, for all caregivers, it is just so much, and also having some kind of support group. You have to get around people that understand what you're going through. I've mentioned we just went through the book, Finding Meaning, the 6th Stage of Grief by David Kessler. He is huge on support groups, and in fact, if you go to his website, grief.com, tons of different support groups, whether you've lost people, you have estranged adult children, caregivers, he'll say, like, when you can see your grief in someone else, it's very validating and you feel seen and heard and understood. Will you please sell a print version of your butt cake book? I donated to receive the online version, but I never got to my computer to cook. It's not being used. Yeah, I would love to do a print run of those again. So, um, it's on my list of, like, would love to do. So we'll see. Because yeah, they're cool. We do have, I guess I didn't mention either, speaking of printed books, so if you join our membership group right now, you'll get a free copy of our Capture and Complete planner. We have it in 2 sizes, 6 by 9 and 8.5 by 11. Probably, I don't ever want to position, like, that there's any planner that is gonna solve all of your to-do list problems for you and manage your life better. I don't ever think that. So in a lot of ways, our planner is like a very normal one. Month layout. We have like our weekly spread. We put dinner plan at the top, our top 3 tasks for the day. You can, plan out your schedule. What makes ours a little bit unique though is we talk about like closing, loop tracker, and then business meeting. So closing loop is decluttering our brain at the end of the day. All the open loops, text messages, phone calls, voicemails, emails, things on our calendar, setting our calendar for the next day, even open browser tabs. You know how we're like, oh, I should look up this. But then like the tab becomes a reminder. That is not a great way to manage our tasks, right? So closing loops, planning for the next day. And then also a weekly business meeting. If you have a partner, this is a game changer. So throughout the week, you can be taking notes on here, and then you plan one time a week to go through it. Huge, huge game changer. So it's a little bit unique in those ways. But again, I'm never going to imply that my planner is going to, change the world. It's the habits that we put in place with it. How to incorporate minimizing in a multi HOH family since the main rooms of the home are shared. Yeah, I mean, so then it becomes like getting permission. You know, I think I kind of wonder if in this case, like Cass will sometimes take the approach with Joe's stuff, her husband's stuff, that she'll go into an area, she'll box up a bunch of stuff that she believes could be decluttered and donated, and then she'll give him the opportunity to look through it and say, like, hey, I don't think this stuff is being used. I think we can let it go. Will you go through it and make sure, there's nothing in here that you wanna keep? He'll generally pull out a couple of things. So I'm wondering if you could take a similar approach and, go through a category of stuff, box up some stuff, and then let everybody know, like, "Hey, I think it would feel nice to get this space simplified a little bit more. I don't believe these things are being used. Would everybody be okay with us donating them?" Do you have any New Year traditions as far as food? Here in PA, a lot of us have pork and sauerkraut. Oh, that's fun. We don't. We don't actually have much around New Year's traditions. So, no, that's super fun though. As the grandma and the matriarch of our family, how do I prepare my treasures to be left for everyone once I'm gone? Many years away, lol. Yeah. Uh, get the book, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff by Matt Paxton. That hands down will give you all the answers that you need. It's so good, so well done. Create your legacy list. Your kids will be so grateful for it. Where do you find such confidence in who you are? Well, thank you. That's so kind. Um, a lot of it has come from getting our house simplified because again, that led to getting the house simplified led to me like, being able to finally stay on top of all my, like, systems, because I felt like such a loser managing our home. And when you have something like that undermining you all the time, I felt good at, like, my online work that I was doing, like, I was doing graphic design and some marketing stuff at the time, and so I tended to just kinda, like, put all my effort there, but then it felt good at times, but then it also made me get more behind on the house and feel even worse about that. So once I got to the point where I could stay on top of the house and still do some of the things that I enjoyed, I was like, wow, now I have confidence in myself that like pretty much anything I set out to do, I can be successful in because I have the bandwidth to like, I'll find the right tools or the whatever I need to be successful in it. It doesn't mean I'm like the best at everything, but I can learn, I can grow, I can figure things out. I have the capacity for that. So I don't know if it works like that for everyone, but I've heard from a lot of women as they get their homes decluttered that starts to fall into place. Would you recommend holding on to baby gear like crib, swing gate, snuggle bee, bassinet may have another baby in the future? So what I generally recommend in that position, keep your absolute favorites, like the absolute for sure. Yes, I would use this with every baby. And then which for me was a handful of things like the wrap, the bouncy seat, the bassinet, and then let the other stuff go. Baby stuff is the easiest stuff on the planet to come by. I've just watched my sister like go through it all again and like it's so easy to get baby stuff on marketplace. And often it's stuff that's even better than maybe you had the first time around. Good to see you, Trish. My husband is a pastor. Yep. And on holidays, especially Christmas, we receive beautiful personalized gifts with our names and pictures on them. I am a cricket, not a collector. Help. permission to let it go. Sometimes that means putting it in the trash, and that sucks. But the exchange was them appreciating you and showing you care. You received it, you felt that, but don't again, we like show our scale, right? Don't let it switch over to that point then. See if I can pull this back up, right? Where it becomes clutter because then we become resentful and that's not benefiting anyone. So permission to let those things go. If it's not overly personalized, like even if it just has like a first name or something, we can donate it. But if it's like pictures and full names, like yeah, then you'll probably just want to toss it. But you have permission to do that. It's okay. What is a good age for kids to start washing, drying their own laundry? I have mine put clothes away at this point. Yeah. 5 or 6, 7, 7, 6. It depends on your washing machine and your laundry room setup. Um, I mean, and the child too. I would say some of ours, like, very early on, were interested in it, could start doing it. But for sure, I don't know, 8, 9, 10. The ages are all blurring together. It's actually though for all of these household things, it's much younger than we think. I know I've shared the story with Adeline and cooking. We were watching a video by Darcy Isabella and her youngest Francesca. I think she was 8 at the time, cooked like a full meal. And Adeline was watching the video with me, and Adeline was a little bit older. And she's like, "Well, yeah, but she must be 9 or 10." And then we like looked and like, "Nope, she's 8." And Adeline was 9, I think, at the time. And Adeline's like, "Well, I could do that if she could do it." Proceeded. I think she made pancakes for the first meal. And since then has loved cooking. So uh we can trust our kids with things a lot earlier than we sometimes think. This is not minimal related, but what quiz did you use to find your style? I'm a mom of 2 and trying to find out who the new me is, including my style. Yeah. Um, I didn't. I get in trouble for this because 'cause I'm like, "My colors are warm autumn," or whatever, and then some of you are like, "Yeah, that makes sense," and others are like, "No, that's so wrong," right? So, I just saw someone on Instagram that had similar coloring to me, and they were holding up the colors, and I'm like, "Those look so good on her," and those are the colors I gravitate to, so I don't have a lot of help for you in that. I I know there's quizzes out there for finding your colors. If you find your colors, it is so helpful. But if anyone wants to share like good resources and stuff around that, I don't recall off the top of my head what they are. So I just kind of like happened to cross it. How much help do you ask from your kids in keeping the inventory low? So in our main living areas, I'm like the chief inventory manager, so I direct that ship. When it comes to their own bedrooms, now that they're getting older, they have a lot of say in it, but because we've practiced it so much, it is not uncommon for them just to come down with a donation bag and hand it to me, and I don't even look through it anymore. It just is what it is. Um, so in their own bedrooms, I like to that be their kind of practice area for keeping inventory, but in our main areas, like I'm the dictator. I'm not mean about it, right? I don't force it. I'm like, "Give me that toy," like, we're donating it. It's not like that, but I definitely direct the cruise ship there. I found that starting with decluttering the kitchen was the best area because it's my throne. Yeah, for those of us, especially if we're home a lot, if we cook multiple meals a day, decluttering your kitchen changes everything. I mean, especially if you don't like cooking or cleaning, just get all the extra crap out of there. It's gonna feel so good. Toys in the bedroom versus toys in a toy room and basement living room. Early on, I preferred not having the toys in the bedroom. They didn't go to their bedrooms to play. They were always playing in the main living spaces, and then during, like, nap time or bedtime, I didn't have to worry about them getting distracted. So, it depends on your home, but if you have space to have them outside of the bedroom, that's been my preference. Why does decluttering feel addictive? Good question, because we get dopamine highs from decluttering too. It is our brains love bringing spaces into order. I've been talking about that a lot lately, but if you are feeling stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, there is something about bringing our physical environment into order. And I know I'll sometimes see like follow-up questions. I'm afraid I'm going to go too far. Like I've gotten so into it, I can't stop. But you don't have to worry about going too far. Like nope, you're doing just fine. So, yeah. Can you tell me more about your membership group? So basically, we just like do life together in there. We declutter together. We're adding in household management systems. I added it up for the month of January because we are adding in every Sunday morning. We do a household management meeting where we are meal planning, going through our task list, our action bins, calendar, setting our calendar for the week. I do live decluttering every other Friday. I do office hours every week. and then we have body doubling twice a day. But just me spending time with our members in there during the month of January, 12 hours, like 12 hours live, like guiding you, directing you, like talking about decluttering, talking about our household management systems, answering questions. So we spend a lot of time together. I do daily videos. They're just 5-minute videos that have a tip or a tactic for decluttering to keep motivation going. We do challenges. And then we have body doubling hosted by our coaches 2 times a day, 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time during the week, 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. on the weekends, where you join in live over Zoom. Others are decluttering. If you have no motivation or energy, you just log on there. It's, like, guaranteed that you'll be like, "Okay, I'm gonna do something now," because the collective energy. And what frustrates me is that we are so hard on ourselves and we think, "I have to be the source of motivation and energy and all of this." That is bullcrap. Like, I'm sorry. We have so much going on that we are managing and doing that we need to learn ourselves and know ourselves. Like, where else can I go to get energy? And so sometimes it's logging on, for a household management planning meeting, and like we're just gonna plan our week together, or the body doubling, we're gonna declutter together. And so if that is helpful for you, great. If not, if you're like, I'm a boss at decluttering, like I got it. Like, thanks for the YouTube videos, but like I'm good to go. Do that. I'm not here to take anyone's money. I just want to support you and for you to get your house decluttered because like I started out saying, it changes everything. There's no way I could go back to living how we lived. No way. In a million years, you could not pay me to take all of that stuff back. It was too stressful. It was too overwhelming. No one in our household was winning that way. And so now to be almost 10 years into this, like all I can say is like, may I please help you? Like, please, like, come, like, I'm just a few steps ahead, reaching my hand back, being like, come on, like, the water is good. Like, it is so much better up here. Life still happens. Life gets lifey. We share that in our membership group too. Like, it has been a crazy couple weeks, like, that I've been coming through here and we've done it together and we get through together. We just did our grief study together. Um, because most of us are pretty lonely right now and we need others around us and we need to stop trying to muscle through and do all this on our by ourselves and like force our flesh into submission, right? Like new year, new goals, I'm going to do it, right? If that works for you, man, do it. That's awesome. If not, if you're like, yeah, maybe actually having some friends around me doing this with me would actually feel pretty good right now, then I would love to help you. So there's a link in the description. Again, this wasn't meant to be a commercial. I do believe in it with like every fiber of my being. I see the success emails every day, right? But also I don't like selling things, so there's that too. But you will get a free planner too if you sign up right now too. While we still have those available too. So and dude, I'll give you your money back, like 30-day money guarantee. I usually extend it longer than that too. I don't want your money. I want you to have a simplified house because it changes everything. Everything. It is just so worthwhile. And if you have other goals, uh, you know, budgets and health stuff and all that, I think getting your house decluttered is just a great step in that direction to getting spouses on board, just getting emotionally and mentally healthy as we head into a new year. Yeah, I really believe decluttering can help with all of that too. Awesome. Well, it has been so good to get to spend this time with you. I'm excited heading into a new year. I know that this can be like bittersweet. Should I set goals? Should I not? But I think 2025 is the year of the decluttered home. Like I think we've all learned a lot, especially if we've spent some time together leading up to this point. And we're going to take everything that we've learned and we're going to put it into action because we are sick and tired of the stuff, right? And it's not worth it anymore. So I'm excited for you. It's going to be a good year. We're gonna get our houses decluttered and it's gonna feel really good. And I'll still be here every Tuesday, man, with decluttering videos and all that too, because I want to do anything that I can to support you. I love you. I hope you have a really good day, and I will look forward to seeing you again soon.